I am back, and I do not like the lighting right down here. So, just give me just a quick moment, and I'm gonna take care of the lighting real quick. For some reason, it's just a little too bright in here, and I'm not liking it. Give me one moment. This is one hell of an introduction. Okay, all right, I'm back. That's better. Let me know if you think the lighting is better. I think the lighting is a little bit better. Have an orange complexion, even though my name is not Donald Trump. But anyway, I want to talk about a subject that's been kind of a stirring up lately, and the conspiratorial corner of the political dialogue and discussion and situation in here in this country. Always people are going to conspire, and always people are going to suspect conspiracy theories. It's just in the nature of the way we do things in the United States these days. We had an election in 2020 this year, just last month. And for me, I am not really surprised Joe Biden won. Then again, I honestly would not have been surprised if Donald Trump would have been reelected. And there are valid reasons to hold both positions. I was inclined to think that Joe Biden was going to win, and that was ended up being the case. But anyway, suffice to say, let's go back to the year 2016. Donald Trump won, and a lot of the Hillary Clinton supporters acted like the sky was falling, and she acted like a sore loser. She did, and she constantly complained for the past 4 years about how Bernie Sanders was mean to her, and how he hurt her, and how Russia and Putin is the reason why Trump won, and calling people she despised as a basket of deplorables, and much of those people who she describes as a basket of deplorables, I might even be inclined to think that they're a basket of deplorables as well. But anyway, a lot of her diehard supporters made a victim out of her 4 years ago, and they, the media and the corporate Democrats, Billy ached about it nonstop, to the point where, God bless him, Bernie Sanders think that he probably is responsible for the loss of Hillary Clinton. No, he's not responsible for the loss of Hillary Clinton. Jill Stein was not the reason why Hillary Clinton won. Donald Trump won because people were fit to be tied, and a lot of things that Democrats promised would happen did not happen. And I'm not for Trump in any shape, way, or form, but he promised to bring jobs back. And a lot of the people from those four critical states that brought him over the edge in 2016, many of these people themselves, being blue collar, white unionized workers, felt like they were being shafted. And they voted for Obama twice. So you can't really blame racism for Joe Sixpack and Jane Sixpack in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin for voting for Trump. Oh, you can blame some hicks somewhere down in Mississippi, or down in Texas, or in Wyoming, or wherever the fuck. That, I mean, yeah, but they will vote for anybody who's a Republican. These people got tired of being promised to. And a lot of those people in 2020 rejected Trump, because Trump promised to bring jobs back. He bribed the car companies with a massive tax cut, and GM fucking laid off 14,000 people. I mean, the U.S. Treasury gave American corporations, even corporations not American, $4.5 trillion, and we have got nothing but a lousy $1,200 check out of this that they even thought was too generous. They thought, oh my, that's too generous. How in the world can we do that? And the premise of giving them the $4.5 trillion, they promised that they would not lay off the workers. Workers got laid off anyway. 14 million Americans lost their health insurance. Do the math. Now, the 2020, just as in 2016, and I'm trying to keep the primaries of this past year to a minimum because I know many of you will be tired of me complaining about Bernie Sanders being cheated. But I'm sorry, he was cheated in 2016 and he was cheated in 2020. I don't care how you slice it or dice it, he was cheated twice. And fuck Obama for actually making those phone calls, encouraging Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar to drop out of the race and keeping Elizabeth Warren just long enough in the primaries in Massachusetts to deprive Bernie Sanders of victory over there. Fuck Obama for cheating Bernie Sanders out of the nomination. This time it was Barack Obama's doing. In 2016, it was Hillary Clinton. Fuck Hillary Clinton in 2016 and fuck Barack Obama in the year 2020. Fuck them both. And just because I say fuck Clinton and fuck Obama does not mean I love Trump, because I'll say it right now. Fuck Donald Trump too. The election, the primaries were rigged once again. Now, when the general election came, both parties rigged the elections. It's rigged against third parties all the time. I never hear anybody complain about that. The Libertarians, the Greens, the Constitutional Party, the Socialist Party USA, if they still exist, the Natural Law Party, the Reform Party, the Prohibition Party, which still runs candidates. They got a tremendous disadvantage levied against them. I never hear anybody say, oh, well, they're cheated and they're deprived. But we're supposed to go and feel sorry for any Democrat or any Republican that loses in a general election while we don't give a shit about independents out there. Or even independent-minded people within primaries inside the party. The Bernie Sanders thing is not new under the sun. They were a little more polite toward Dennis Kucinich in 2004 and 2008 because they knew he was not going to get the nomination, but they did what they could to try to make him irrelevant and act like he was a non-factor. And they did the same thing in 2008 and 2012 in the Republican primaries against Ron Paul. So, but this is nothing new under the sun, as I said over and over again. In 2020, the Democrats did convince a handful of states to throw the Green Party off the ballot. That's a form of cheating. But Republicans love to cheat too, because they love to find ways to deprive minority sections to right to register to vote, and they have it so where they're kind of intimidated into voting in certain places, and they find sophisticated ways to do this. 2 years ago, 2018, in the state of Georgia, I am no fan of Stacey Abrams, the Democratic candidate that ran for governor in that state that year. In fact, I'm gonna tell you, I actually despise the woman. She went and she sucked up to Joe Biden, and she even sucked up to Michael Bloomberg, who decided to leave the Republican Party and go into the Democratic Party because he wanted to be a hotshot like Donald Trump. And he's, some ways, is further right wing than Donald Trump. running as a Democrat. That tells you what's wrong with the two-party system right there from the get-go. She was cheated herself down in Georgia. What happened in Georgia with the ballots being thrown out, and let me tell you, there was a major, major conflict of interest going on. I know here the Republican Trump supporters talking about that. And just like Hillary Clinton in the year 2016, now that Donald Trump lost the election, he's now being made the victim. Oh, Donald Trump, they hate him. They hate him. He is hated. He is hated. Name a politician who is seriously loved. Just about any politician is hated. Hillary Clinton doesn't exactly have a fan club. I get it, Republicans. It's okay. It's okay when y'all accuse Democrats of cheating, and it's okay to hate on the Democrats in an irrational sort of way. You know, if the Democrat in the White House is a white male, I mean, you may go as far as saying, well, they're a socialist, they're a communist, and then you leave it at that. But if someone like Hillary Clinton's running for office, yeah, you're going to call her a socialist or a communist, but you're going to go and accuse her of engaging in a satanic pedophile ring somewhere in some underground, under basement place in a pizza parlor in Washington, D.C. Or you're going to, or you're going to accuse Barack Obama from being a secret Kenyan Muslim, being here as the president to destroy Western civilization. And for the record, there's nothing wrong with being born in Kenya, and there's nothing wrong with being a Muslim. But what I'm basically saying is the conspiracy theories. Y'all think you're so fucking wise with the conspiracy theories. You sound like a bunch of jackasses. And for the record, those on the Trump derangement syndrome resistance fake progressive side who claims that Donald Trump is a white nationalist that wants to turn the United States into a totally 100% white ethno state. You're just as full of shit as the Tea Party people who claim that Barack Obama was not born in the United States. And I don't like Donald Trump, and I don't like Barack Obama, but I also don't like going with over-the-top allegations. There's enough wrong with Barack Obama. There's enough wrong with Donald Trump that you could just criticize them on their policies. Trump is being made the victim. A man that gave $4.5 trillion to big business, where 14 million Americans lost their lives, where due to COVID, people losing their livelihoods and not being properly compensated for it. Now, it's not 100% Trump's fault. Mitch McConnell gets the blame. Chuck Schumer gets the blame. Nancy Pelosi gets the blame. Governors from all 50 states from both parties get the blame. But here's the thing about the Trump supporters who whine and cry about Donald Trump supposedly being cheated. And here's the thing, I'm planning to do a video down the road, probably in about a month from now, comparing and contrasting George W. Bush presidency to the Donald Trump's presidency. And you probably know how I feel about the two men and which one I dislike even more than the other. But I'm going to focus a commentary on just that within the next month. But think about it is that Donald Trump and George W. Bush doesn't exactly have there's no love between them. The Bush family voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. Rumor has it that Dick Cheney voted for Hillary Clinton. I've heard that rumor. The Bush family voted for Joe Biden in the year 2020. And the thing about it is, so they don't have a love toward each other. I'm talking about the Bush family, George W. Bush in particular, versus Donald Trump. Many of the people that are Trump's diehard supporters are not really all that bright because their positions that Donald Trump actually embraces that goes against certain things that Trump believes in. What I mean by that is they're Trump supporters that love Donald Trump more than they love George W. Bush, but on policy matters, their views and their policy that they favor matches more with the George W. Bush model than it does the Donald Trump model. The world's not a logical place. But these people felt like that George W. Bush's victory down in Florida in 2000 was a legitimate victory. And the argument about George W. Bush's presidents being illegitimate is more profound. You didn't have 4 or 5 states to do litigation over in 2000. It was down to one state by a couple of counties in the south part of Florida, Dade County in particular, with the hanging chads on the ballot. People accidentally voting for the wrong person on the ballots and everything. And the debacle and the clusterfuck it became down in Florida. You had Governor Jeb Bush, George W. Bush's younger brother, as the governor of Florida at that time. You also had Kathleen Harris, who was the Republican Secretary of State. Conflict of interest. And you had a Supreme Court that leaned right at that time. The Supreme Court appointed George W. Bush as president. Now, don't get the wrong idea that somehow I loved Al Gore. In fact, I would say that 2000 was probably the worst choice you could imagine in the two-party system in memory. You had Al Gore and Joe Lieberman, and I argued that Joe Lieberman was the Bush-Cheney faction of the Gore ticket. And I, as usual, myself, I voted third party, and I would do it again. As I would do it again in 2016, as I did just a few weeks ago. And the same people that felt like Donald Trump was cheated think that the Bush presidency was legitimate. And look, what did the Bush presidency bring us from the year 2001 to 2009? Hyper deregulation, which led to the 2007 housing bubble crash that nearly collapsed our economy and we were almost in the Great Depression. I'm not a 9/11 truther, but and the attacks on the World Trade Center would have taken place regardless. And no, it's not that because Bill Clinton didn't do a good job going after Osama bin Laden, and she must blame somebody. Ronald Reagan is to blame for Osama bin Laden because during the 1980s, the United States was spending its time backing right-wing Islamic rebels in Afghanistan against the Soviets. Sorry, some things are worse than communism. And the extreme radical style Islam that was being offered by these right-wing rebels in Afghanistan, it was far worse than what communism could actually do to oppress people. And what happened? The United States backed these rebels, and these rebels, once we backed these rebels, and the rebels were able to push the Soviets away, And the Taliban would take over in a few short years later, and they would house an Al Qaeda network. Remember that Osama bin Laden was on the payroll of the CIA at one time. We indirectly created Al Qaeda. The United States did. Our damn CIA. And our CIA do shit abroad that ends up biting us in the ass every time. And that's an example right there. It resulted in 9/11. Not saying it's George W. Bush's fault, and it wouldn't have been Al Gore's fault. We would have been president. But the way George W. Bush responded to 9/11, blaming the wrong country, because son of a bitch, George W. Bush had a score to settle because of his papa, who was, who during the Gulf War, with the, what was it called, Operation Desert Shield. He wanted a score to settle, and so several hundred thousand Iraqis died. Tens of thousands of Americans died as a result. The world became less safe. It left a vacuum. It led toward the creation of ISIS, and the Middle East became more of a powder keg than it is. Thank you, George W. Bush. You compare that, and that's what these Trump supporters voted for. Not saying that Donald Trump was great on foreign policy. I mean, I'm not going to say he was awesome on foreign policy, but I can give you 100 reasons why Donald Trump sucks as president, and I can give you quite a few profound reasons on foreign policy too, such as harassing Venezuela, and such as trying to start a war with Iran, walking out of the Iran nuclear deal, that sort of thing. The ironic thing is that with the Iran nuclear deal, the United States started to have better relations with North Korea, who you can argue is probably a more dangerous state than Iran could ever be. I'm still glad that there's better relations between North Korea and the West, and I hope nothing changes in that regard. And I'm even willing to give Donald Trump a little bit of credit on that. He's not a peacenik, but he's not a neocon. And he had neocons to contend with in his administration. Vomit like Mike Pompeo, Gene Haskell, John Bolton when he was the NSA advisor. But the point is, many of these people they supported George W. Bush. You ever seen the movie Jesus Camp when you had those brainwashed kids fawning over a poster of George W. Bush? A lot of those megas out there fawn over Donald Trump the very same way. I cannot. I accept that Joe Biden won this election. He underperformed, but he won. As I said, I'm not surprised what the elections results, what they were. We're a divided country. From now on, it's going to be pretty much red state versus blue state. It's part of the political culture. And I'm worried that the next time a Republican win, it'll be worse than Donald Trump. Like a Ted Cruz or Tom Cotton, who are both, I guess you could say, more competent, more serious than Donald Trump, which makes them worse than Donald Trump. It's like all the shit he thinks about Donald Trump and the more profound shit he thinks about George W. Bush, well, maybe smarter than both Bush and Trump and more competent. That's a recipe for disaster. The idea of Tom Cotton or Ted Cruz, or heavens forbid, Mike Pence being the next president of the United States. And our return to negative normal is going to probably make that more a possibility than anything else. And Democrats did not learn their they learned the wrong lessons. They thought that by being a corporate, stand for nothing, piece of shit centrist is the way to go. Never mind that COVID was their best friend when it happened. That's what I got to say. And there are people on the left that I would respectfully disagree with in that regard. Um, I mean, I respectfully would disagree with Combo Couch, who are not fans of Trump, but they have taken a line about election integrity, and there's some truth to what they're saying. But the premise is that Trump was totally cheated, as if the Republicans don't cheat. I have to respectfully disagree. I mean, I still listen to their perspective, but I, as I said, on that one, I have to respectfully disagree, even though I've been becoming a bigger fan of theirs lately. But anyway, I digress, and I wanted to get that out of my chest. If you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you were triggered by it, well, the world's not fair. Comment anyway. Share the content on this channel. And as a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you that if you have something you're passionate about, please, please utilize it. If you're passionate about something, you don't have a platform, develop that platform, utilize it, because we're the muckrakers of our time. And most importantly, feel free to subscribe to this channel. And until next time, I am American Social Democracy, peace, and Bernie Sanders for president in the year 2024.